Welcome to Newcastle upon Tyne as the LNER Azuma just leaves for London King's Cross. But London King's Cross is not my destination today. I'm going to have a bit of a Transpennine day today. So my train's just behind me there, the Hitachi Transpennine service to Liverpool Lime Street. I'm going down as far as York, and then after that I will be changing to go on a Transpennine Nova 3 to Scarborough. So get a good chance to give TPE a bit of love and see how their services are on their two different sorts of hardware. And of course, finally, after all that travelling, I need to find a nice long bench to stretch out on, so Scarborough's got to be the place to go, hasn't it? As we got plenty of time before our train leaves, I also had plenty of time to have a look at Newcastle station, which is an absolutely glorious station for anyone who doesn't know. And yeah, let's rewind to outside the station and have a look at Newcastle. We start at Thomas Prosser's gigantic Doric porte cochere, which was completed in 1863. It was glazed in 2014, and I'm not sure this adds any particular value. To the east of the main station building, the Royal Station Hotel was opened by Queen Victoria and Prince Albert in 1858. It now boasts 145 bedrooms with restaurants, bars and a leisure club. Right, so let's walk back up Neville Street and re-enter the station. The Tyne and Wear Metro came to the station in 1981, with underground platforms linking to the local area and as far afield as Sunderland and Newcastle Airport. And now we're inside the porte cochere with its plastic ceiling and lacklustre interior. But the old entrance doors draw us on and promise more grandeur to come. And past the doors we find ourselves entering John Dobson's amazing engine shed, which was opened in 1850. To enable this curving roof, Dobson visited ironworks and devised a new type of rolled iron girder to support the roof spans. With all this space, the station comfortably handled around 9 million passengers annually before COVID. Looking around, it's hard to imagine now that in the 1970s, British Rail contemplated demolition and redevelopment of the entire station. And here's our Nova 1 on its incoming working from Liverpool Lime Street. Newcastle sees many train operators. Here's a cross-country service on its way to Scotland. So, do you prefer the red and white of LNER or the shades of blue and purple of TPE? Let me know in the comments. Right, it's time to get on board. I'm travelling second class on this service. Well, it's the same old Class 800 series ironing board seats for second class passengers, but at least I'm not going far today. As we've seen on other 800 series, there's a decent amount of legroom in second class. And the drop-down table is pretty sturdy and has a little groove for tablets and phones, and yes, it was clean. And the extension for laptops as well. And there's a window blind. And I was going to show you a closer look at the seat. But actually the real horror is that these seats are showing a lot of staining. Hopefully it's just tea. But that stuff up the side looks altogether more sinister, as does the stuff that's been spilled down the side of the other seat. But still, under the seat there's two 3-pin plugs and also a couple of USB outlets. And we cross the River Tyne on the King Edward VII Bridge. And we can see the Queen Elizabeth II bridge, which takes the Tyne and Wear Metro across the river. No trip through Durham would be complete without a view of Durham Cathedral. Darlington is another beautiful northeastern station. The station was completed in 1887. Right, let's have a further look at this Nova one. Well, there's a pretty decent amount of luggage racking as you enter the second class compartment. And as we carry through to first class, we can have a look at the accessible toilets.
Please lock the door. The door is now locked.
And there was lots of space and everything was working as expected. First class also has further accessibility features. And I'm not sure if I've ever been on a carrier before where the first and second class seats appear to have exactly the same moquette. You can hardly tell you're in first class. Just north of Northallerton, the line from Middlesbrough and Hartlepool joins. We're up to full speed now, and this Class 802 is getting a bit jittery, as you can see from my camera shake. Whoa, there's another jitter. And as we approach York, I've just got time to let you know that this Advance single cost me just £6 with my railcard discount. Definitely a bargain. And here we are at York Station, and as you can see, Thomas Prosser was involved in building this one too. Ah, here's a Lumo coming through the station. I thought they used the York avoiding line. Does anybody know if they've been rerouted? Well, that's part one complete then. We've hopped down from Newcastle to York. That was a very good run actually with TPE. Yeah, now we're here in York, and we'll have a closer look at the station and how similar really in design it is to Newcastle, maybe just slightly smaller. They say Newcastle station is grand, but York is more lovable. It's certainly built on a more human scale, and yet it still has its share of grandeur. The old station signal box makes for an impressive coffee bar and bookshop. Now let's take a step outside. There's none of the stone of Newcastle. Here it's all workaday brick. The York Tap pub now commands the old refreshment rooms, and next door the old station hotel is called the Principal. The station nestles within sight of the old city walls, and unlike Newcastle, the porte cochere is still doing its original job of keeping people dry as they alight their carriages. Although it's a smaller station than Newcastle, York in fact handles around 10 million passengers a year. Due to public outcry, ticket barriers have never been erected at York, and so it remains the only big station with open platforms, which is dead handy if you're visiting the city and you fancy a couple of pints at the York Tap and watching the trains go by. Who would do a thing like that? Motive power at the back of our train will be this Class 68 locomotive. Beyond the loco, there's a rake of 5 Mark 5A coaches forming the train, and at the front is a driving trailer. And on we get, this time in first class. And there's the familiar TPE blue carpet, and this time the first class seats definitely have a slightly first class feel to them, which I think is good. But there seems to be some kind of ducting along the side, which means there's very little leg room and a great big post in the middle as well. Not great. Still, there's a wacky table with an integrated light and very accessible plugs. And there's also an adjustable recline. Anybody know what this yellow thing is that's nestling underneath? Right, we're off on the last leg of my journey to the bench. Soon we're pulling out of the station and crossing over the River Ouse. Haxby is the site of a proposed new railway station. The line follows the River Derwent for quite some way. Malton now has only a single operating platform, but it used to be a junction of 3 lines with an overall train shed. The train shed had to be removed in 1989 and was replaced by a canopy recovered from one of the disused platforms. Here's the wheelchair and accessible area, and there's also generous luggage stacks. And passing through into second class, it just seems exactly like the 800 series that we left earlier. Ah, the toilet. Well, everything seemed to be working okay, but I can honestly say this is the smallest toilet I've been in for quite some time. I think if I was a regular user of the train, I'd certainly be looking for the accessible toilet myself. Seamer is our last station stop, and we're very close now to Scarborough.
Next and final calling point around 5 minutes time will be Scarborough.
Oh look, a bench. And a long one at that. So this first class single bought on the day cost me just £10.25 with my railcard discount. And with that, we're pulling into Scarborough. Well, it's not often you travel all the way from Newcastle on Transpennine, changing at York, just to sit on a bench, but that's what it's come to. So yes, here we are on the longest bench at Scarborough. That was a nice little run on the old Nova 3, pushed along by the rather loud diesel locomotive behind us. Yeah, it was a good run, and fun to do it in first class, as it was with the senior rail card only a tenner, so it's kind of an affordable luxury. My plan now is to have a little walk down the seafront and maybe get myself an ice cream. It's 4:15 in the afternoon here in Scarborough. I'm sleeping in Hull tonight, so I'm on the train at 5 o'clock down into Hull. I hope you've enjoyed a Transpennine trip to the longest bench. Cheers then. I release train trip videos every week, so if you'd like to see some more, please subscribe. But in the meantime, thanks for watching.